Okay, so we're going to do a quick review of these battery operated lanterns. I got two different brands here. The older style are going to be the Rayovac Sportsman 360, and the two in the center are going to be Coleman battery operated. They all are fluorescent bulb, and they all use the same type of fluorescent bulb. And we'll go through each one individually. Alright, so we're going to start with these Rayovac Sportsman 360 lanterns. These are in two different colors. I believe they made a third color. I also believe they're made in the early 70s. I couldn't find any date on the actual lantern. And they use two different types of switch functions. So the way they operate are a little different, and we'll take a closer look at each of them. Alright, so the one on the left here, to operate it, you slide the button over to the start button, and that will illuminate one bulb. And then to turn it off, you push this button over. So this button, the off button, actually disappears and is only popped out once you start the lantern. Then it pops out. And once you have it started, you can go to low, which is the one bulb, and if you go to high, it has both bulbs on. Alright, so this is the function switches on this lantern. So to start it, you're going to place it in the high start position and then move the top switch over, and that turns on one of the bulbs, and then you slide it over and you get both, and that's in the start or high position. And then if you move the bottom switch, you go to a low position. And then if you move the top to the middle, you have a low with a single bulb. So this one's a little different, and the off switch is integrated into this top function switch. Okay, so the lantern on the right, the avocado green lantern, gives you a couple more options for light. You can run it with both at a high or low, whereas the lantern on the right here, your low setting is only going to be one bulb. You can't run both bulbs on a low level like this one over here. You can run this one, both bulbs, but it's not as bright for the battery saving option, or you can run them on high, whereas this one, the high is both, and there's no option to dim it any or save the battery. I would assume that this would be the newer of the two lanterns, that the model change of these function switches came out and gave a little bit more option, whereas this would have been maybe their beginning run of the lantern, but I'm not 100% sure on that. To access the bulbs, to change them, you're going to remove this top nut here. By spinning this, you can pull off this nut here, which kind of has like a oval shape to it. And then you can pull off the top and this plastic globe, and then you can get to the bulbs. So the bulbs are actually held in place by the top of the lantern here. To access the batteries, I'll put this back together here, you're going to turn just this big nut. So if we turn this, it turns a rod inside the lantern that goes all the way through to the bottom, and the whole top of the lantern comes off to access the batteries for change, and we'll take a closer look at that. So there's the battery case, and it has marked which way you need to have the lantern battery in, and the lantern batteries also have positive negative posts on it. So you can see in this one here you have a positive and a negative, so you want to put the battery in so that the orientation is positive negative for the two spring posts here. Here's the bottom of the battery tray. It just says do not open lantern from this end. It says it's a Rayovac Sportsman 360. Obviously it uses those fluorescent tubes, made in USA, and I'm going to see if I can get zoomed in on the type of bulb it uses. Alright, so it says here you can use either a 944 6-volt battery or a 941 6-volt battery. I'm assuming the 944 was probably a more expensive battery. It also says to use a 6-watt F6T5 CW fluorescent tube, And obviously this was made in USA. So the batteries I'm using are Everready super heavy duty. And like I said, this is just a standard lantern battery. It's got the spring post, which is important. If they don't have the spring post, they're not going to work. And these were the, I believe, $3 to $4 a piece. So in total I have 4 of these Rayovac Sportsman 360 lanterns. 2 of them work. These 2 over on the left here operate with no issue. The other 2 on the right do not. The one I was told from the previous owner worked great. All it needed was batteries. And once I tried putting batteries in it and I tried switching bulbs, I couldn't get anything to work. I took it apart, and upon further inspection there was a wire that was fixed, and I noticed like this waxy substance at the bottom of the battery tray. Jump ahead, the way these lanterns are designed, there's a circuit board in this area here that's covered with wax, I'm assuming to keep moisture out. Well, all that wax on that lantern was at the bottom of the battery tray. And once I did some inspecting, realized that somebody tried to fix it and obviously had shorted it with the batteries in there, and it actually got so hot it melted the wax. So that one, I'm assuming, definitely needs some sort of capacitor or resistor or something, because I can't get that one to light at all. This one over here, if I put batteries in, every once in a while I can get it to light. But then if I shut it off and try to start it again, it won't. So I'm assuming maybe that's like a starting capacitor. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about the electronics to know where to start with that. I'm pretty sure it could be fixed. It's just a small board with a couple, it looks like, different size capacitors. So I'm assuming there's not much to it. But without knowing a ton about the electronic side of that, I don't know that I could fix that. I'll have to do some more digging. And the one that was shorted, I'm pretty sure the whole board would have to be replaced. I haven't been able to source any parts or find anything, and there's very little information on the internet about these. So I don't know that I'll be able to get into them. Obviously though, they're in really great shape yet, and the bulbs in the one are still good. I've interchanged them just to check. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. Let's get on to the next 2. Alright, so here we got 2 Coleman lanterns. The one on the left is a lantern I got as a child, and I've had this entire time. Works really well. The one on the right I just got off a marketplace. I paid $8, and in the description it was described as new in box, and when I got the lantern, it definitely was new in box. It had all the original packaging inside the box around the lantern, along with there was a small snippet of wrapping paper. So obviously somebody had gotten it as a gift and never used it. There also was one of those round rummage sale stickers that had a 20 on it, so obviously they were trying to sell it for 20, but no takers. So I got it for 8, and yeah, that it's like brand new. So we'll take a look at both of them and just see the differences between the 2. Okay, so this Coleman lantern has 2 functions. You have a switch which illuminates 1 bulb on high, or you go 2 and you have 2 bulbs on high. The type of battery this lantern uses is the same 6-volt lantern battery, but it only uses 2 of them. It also uses the exact same bulb as the Rayovac, so they're all interchangeable, which is nice. To change the bulbs, at the top here, you're just going to turn this top, and that'll give you access to the bulbs, which is easy. And then to access the battery, there's a tray at the bottom here. The only issue I've ever had with this lantern is the 6-volt batteries sit in here sideways, and they don't always, when you screw this bottom back on, they don't always make contact. It must be like a clearance issue. So I have a thin piece of cardboard that I lay in the bottom of this tray here, and then when I screw it on, it provides enough pressure to keep the battery to make contact. Otherwise it doesn't always come on, so you gotta kind of push on the bottom. So that's kind of fixed that problem. So on the side, like most Coleman lanterns here, it's got some instructions on how to operate it, and how to use it, the type of bulbs. It uses two 9-inch 6-watt bulbs, and it also explains how to replace those bulbs. And then on the side here, there also is a spot for a 12 volt cord. And I believe originally this came with a cord that had a cigarette lighter, so you could plug it into your car. And the model number on this one is a 5355-700. And this one is made in Hong Kong. So this is how the batteries sit in here. So like I said, they kind of sit on their side. And then that bottom tray just screws on. And if there isn't enough pressure pushing against these batteries, they don't make contact with the points in there. Alright, so the function this one, up is 1, down is 2 bulbs, in the middle is off. This is the same as the other one. Have the same type of directions on the side here. Also it says uses two 9-inch 6-watt tubes. That's the same. And if we come over to the other side, we have the same type of connection for the 12-volt cord. And this one is a model 5355. It doesn't have the -700. And this one is also made in China. The other one is made in Hong Kong, and it's a 5355-700. I'm thinking this is a newer style lantern, and I'll show you why I think that. Alright, so here are the batteries. So obviously what this is some sort of adapter that they have come up with to use D batteries instead of the 6-volt lantern battery. On the box it says it uses 8 D batteries, but obviously if you had lantern batteries this would work as well. I'm assuming that's what the change is and why this is newer. They added these adapters in there just because the D battery is a little bit more convenient and readily available, whereas the lantern battery might have an issue finding them. I don't. I can find them wherever I go. They seem to be pretty plentiful around here. Either Walmart or any of your big stores seem to have them. In the bottom of that lantern, it does say though it can use two standard 6-volt spring terminal lantern batteries, which it doesn't say on the box. So that would be my guess why they dropped the -700. Obviously there's a little bit of a change. The only other change between the two lanterns would be the color. This one's a little bit more green and the decal's a little different. Other than that, the major change would be that it has these adapters. Alright, so to wrap this up, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons. I'm going to start with the cons of a battery operated lantern. Number one, I guess, would be the battery. The runtime of the lanterns are all going to kind of vary, but once your battery runs out of power, you either have to have more batteries on hand or you just don't have any more light. Typically battery operated lanterns don't last as long as a gas or kerosene or white gas type lantern or even a propane. And then cost of the batteries. The batteries can be expensive. If you're buying a new battery operated lantern, you're going to have a pretty good cost associated with that. If you buy used, it's kind of a gamble. If you're going off the word of the seller, maybe it'll be okay, maybe it won't, depending on how honest the seller is. If I were to buy another used battery operated lantern, I would definitely bring batteries with me to make sure I can test it before I buy it. And I'd be really leery on buying a battery operated lantern off of like eBay, just because there's a pretty good chance it's not going to work. A side note, if anybody knows how to fix those lanterns, or if you know of anyone that knows how to fix those type of lanterns or that type of electronic, let me know. I'd be interested. I have like recap stereos and stuff, so I have a little bit of knowledge and a few tools for fixing that type of thing, but I just don't know how to diagnose the electronics on it. Alright, and then the pros of the battery operated lanterns are going to be they're quiet. If you've ever operated a white gas or propane, there's a noise that's associated with the burning. There's no heat and no fumes with a battery operated lantern, which makes them great for indoor use. And probably number one of all of those, they're convenient. It's just a matter of turning a switch and they come on. So there's definitely some pros and cons. They're great for indoor use though, and especially during a quick power outage, it's just a matter of flipping a switch. You don't have to light anything or pump anything up or start anything. You just flip a switch, you got light, and you go from there. Okay, so that's going to be it for now.